Hi everyone, the Lone Wolf here and welcome to our station in Solitude. Today I'm going to cover some of the EVE news that came out today because I think it's pretty important. Unfortunately, there's an incursion going on right here in Nibale and the surrounding system, so yeah, I'm not going to go out of my way to mine in an incursion and cover the news at the same time. But there are some pretty important topics I think that I want to share with you, so let's go to the browser. Let's start off with the latest dev blog, which is the new system requirements for EVE Online. So, too long didn't read. As of July 10th, 2013, so in less than a month, we're changing the minimum and recommended system specs for EVE Online and adding official Windows 8 support. On Windows, minimum systems is now AMD X2600 or NVIDIA GeForce 8 600. GPU and a dual core CPU at 2 GHz. Recommended systems is AMD Radeon 6790 or NVIDIA GeForce GTX 560. Quad core GPU CPU 2.0 as well. They are somewhat higher on the Macs. So yeah, they're going to, I think this is probably the most important if you still have an old computer, to check out this dev blog, because some of the driver stuff is also going to become unsupported. Old hardware will also soon be unsupported. So yeah, just if you have an old computer, I think this is pretty important to check if you still fall under the specs or not. And if necessary, well, prepare for an upgrade or something like that. So yeah, pretty short dev blog, but pretty interesting for the people that are still on an older machine. The other news, it's about upcoming rebalancing in patch 1.1, Odyssey 1.1. And these are not on dev blogs, but in the features and ideas discussions in the forums. So let's go there, and then in the sticky, you can find two of them. The first one right here I think is really pretty interesting. It's about changes to the Nosferatu, so the energy vampire. Back in the day, before I played, it looks like the Nosferatu was quite overpowered because it could basically drain cap and add it to your capacitor even if your target had 0 cap left. And so yeah, this meant you had like battleships that were using them on empty frigates, but still increasing their cap continuously, and it was quite a bit overpowered. Unfortunately, the nerf that came after that was a little bit too significant, and at the moment the NOS is pretty much useless, because what happened is it will only add NOS depending on the percentage amount of cap your target still has remaining. So yeah, if you want to cap someone out, NOS is totally not the module to use anymore, because basically you can't drain someone empty of cap. The more you have, the more your target has to have as well for your NOS to be useful in any way. So they're going to plan and change that, which I think is a pretty interesting and good change. So the successful activation of a NOS, an energy vampire, will depend on how much cap you have in your pool compared to your target. What this should mean is that smaller ships, such as a frigate or a cruiser, will find it to be a very powerful and efficient module to cap out larger targets, such as a battleship. And of course, in 0-0 warfare, you could also find this pretty useful, I think, in capping out larger cap ships like carriers and dreadnoughts. So I think this is a really interesting change. I like the idea of allowing smaller ships to still use the NOS, and maybe to have this generate a lot of cap for them by stealing it from larger targets, but that it won't work the other way around, so that large targets can't create cap from, like, battleships can't create cap anymore from something like an empty frigate. So I think this is a very interesting change. And it could change some of the neuting mechanics and fleet doctrines out there. Let's go then to the bigger one actually, which is the Tech 1 industrial rebalancing. So these are up next, and pretty interesting. They're coming out in Odyssey 1.1 normally, so that's pretty good. Basically, the idea, that's this whole part above here, is to have two distinct roles in these Tech 1 industrial ships, one for maximum cargo capacity, and then the other one with less cargo capacity but with more tank and more speed and agility. Now personally, I think max cargo is probably still going to be the most popular by a large margin, because otherwise you have to do something like 10 jumps. It's just so much more efficient to be able to haul twice as much than to have to do 2 trips just because you have a bit more tank or a bit more agility. So yeah, I still think that the max cargo are going to be king of the Tech 1 industrials, such as at the moment the e-tron Mark V is probably by far the best choice in them. So I'm not going to go over all these changes in details. What I noticed is that a lot of them get quite a few extra low slots. In fact, look at the Badger here, +1 high, +3 mediums, +3 lows. Maybe I'll quickly go over the what I think are the important numbers. So here we have Sigil, Badger, Wreath and Iteron, so I presume those are like the Mark 1s. Cargo capacity 21,000, 18,000, 20,000, 21,000 again. And right here in the defenses you can see that they get quite a lot more hit points in shields, armor and hull. So yeah, +624, +304, +1540 for something like the Sigil. Similar numbers as well for the Badger, the Wraith and the Iteron Mark 1. So these are the less cargo but a lot more defense. Also their velocity, agility and stuff are also changing a little bit. Yep, speed increased, agility a little bit decreased, I think, minus, yeah. Mass decreased and align time decreased as well. So these ships should be a bit faster and a bit more tanky. On the other hand, the Bestower, Badger 2, Hoarder and Iteron Mark V will have cargo capacities of 39,000, 35,000, 36,000 and 39,000. Ooh, surprisingly the Bestower can have even more than the Iteron Mark V. So yeah, this one might just get dethroned after that patch. The other part that's I think pretty important to see here is right there, defenses. Less shields, less armor, less hull, by quite a bit actually. And is it as drastic on all of them? Well, no. I'd say the Iteron Mark V is hit the most by that, but all of them have decreased defenses. And ooh, look at that, Badger Mark II gets less mass, while the Iteron Mark V gets quite a lot more mass. So yeah, pretty interesting, although they become very similar, all of them. Next up we have another set of medium capacity. Their defenses, either the change isn't posted here, but okay, these are again Iteron Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV and the Mammoth. Interesting. They are around 23, 24, 29 again for the Iteron Mark V and 22,000 cubic meters in cargo capacity. So yeah, that's definitely a lot less than the 40k you can get with a Bestower or an Iteron Mark V. One thing you do notice is that they will all start to look quite a lot alike. Yeah, these are all very similar ships, and going for a single one like the Iteron Mark V, you know, you could definitely skip that and just go for the transporter of your own race. With these changes, unfortunately, of course, that does mean that there's a bit less variety in them as well. But yeah, overall pretty interesting changes to the Tech 1 transport ships that are coming out in Odyssey 1.1. And there was one thing I was thinking about here that could still be important, but I can't really remember what that was about. So yeah, I think that's going to be it. That's a look at the EVE Online news of today. So new system specs, upcoming changes to the Nosferatu module, pretty interesting in my opinion, and right here the rebalancing of the Tech 1 industrial ships, which will homogenize them quite a bit. But you get a couple with large cargo capacity and other ones that have a bit more tank and agility with like about half the cargo capacity of the bigger ships. I still think everyone will go for bestowers and Iteron Mark V personally. Maybe, yeah, one thing that that I could still mention on this is that CCP was thinking a lot about how they could diverse these as well. Unfortunately, for transport ships, that's something that's really hard to do. You know, you basically have like three things you can tweak. You know, the amount of cargo, the speed, and the amount of tank you have. But outside of that, it's really hard to find diverse roles and diverse things you can allow your transport ships to do, and most of those are already covered by the Tech 2 versions, stuff like cloaking or warp strength. That's all covered in the Tech 2 versions already. So yeah, it's a bit understandable that all they can really do is branch it into a lot of cargo, not a lot of tank and speed, or less cargo but you get more tank and speed. And yeah, I guess that's just a problem if you have 12 different transport ships over 4 races. Yeah, finding different roles for all 12 of them is really totally impossible for a transport ship, which basically you either want some tank or you want a lot of cargo, which I think will always win out, especially if we look at how quickly the Machino and the Retriever have been adopted by the miners after they gained so much more cargo compared to the Hulk and the Procurer. So yeah, it's hard to balance something like that, but these are the upcoming changes. I hope you guys are a bit informed by this and aren't too surprised when you see these changes coming in the next patch 1.1. Anyways, that's it for me for this video, guys. I'll see you all on the next one.